Welcome back to Tongue of the Serpent. By this point in the season, New Orleans has already shown us what kind of city it really is. We've seen cursed objects passed from hand to hand, old bargains waking up in modern rooms, doors opening where no doors should be, at the quiet truth beneath it all. In this city, the supernatural does not arrive all at once. It gathers, it waits, it learns your name. Tonight's story steps away from the Krewe for a moment and follows a musician named Silas, a man who was made a life out of listening closely. That turns out to be a dangerous gift in New Orleans, because some sounds are not meant to be followed, and some songs do not want an audience. They want an answer. This is The Hungry Bells. New Orleans has a habit of keeping its oddities like pearls. It tucks them into half-lit courtyards and back streets, and the spaces between one song ending and another beginning. Most nights, the city is generous. It gives you jazz and heat, and the comforting illusion that whatever is strange is only atmosphere. And then, every now and then, it rings. The first time Silas Piper heard the bells, he was walking home from a gig in the quarter, guitar case slung over one shoulder, fingers still buzzing from the last set. He was tired in the good way, the satisfied way, the kind that makes a man believe the world is harmless for at least another few blocks. The city was restless that night. Rain hovered in the air without committing. Gas lamps flickered. Music drifted from open doors and dissolved into the humidity. Then somewhere far away, a bell rang. Low and hollow, the sound rolled over the rooftops in a slow, shuddering toll that did not travel so much as arrive. It settled in his ribs. It made the bones in his chest feel briefly like a tuning fork. Silas stopped. Another bell followed, then another. The notes tumbled over one another, metallic and mournful, stretching longer than any ordinary echo had a right to stretch. It was not St. Louis Cathedral. It was not any church. It sounded older than that, as if the city's bones had learned music and chosen the worst possible song. Silas went still, jaw tight, listening. The bells kept ringing, as if they had finally remembered there were names worth saying. At first he told himself it was only a strange night. New Orleans specialized in strange nights. A wrong sound, a wrong shadow, a sudden hush. You notice, shrug, and keep moving. That is how you survive here, with your sanity mostly intact. Then he saw the woman on the bicycle. She was coasting slowly down the street, one hand loose on the handlebar. When the bells rang again, she braked, as if the sound had taken hold of her spine. Across the street, a man in a rumpled suit stopped walking and stared upward, frowning first in irritation, then confusion. Near a doorway, a homeless man who had been muttering to himself went silent so abruptly it made Silas's skin prickle. The bells rolled again, deep and measured. Without a word, the three strangers began to move. The man in the suit stepped forward with stiff precision. shoes clicking in time with the tolling. The woman got off the bicycle and left it propped neatly against a lamppost, as if she planned to be back in 5 minutes. The homeless man shuffled after them, posture slack, gaze fixed on an invisible point ahead. Silas felt it then, not just fear, but a pull. It was not in his muscles or his bones. It was deeper. In that private place behind the ribs, where instinct and regret keep their ledgers, a voiceless command curled around his chest with terrible patience. Come. He clapped his hands over his ears. The bells rang inside his skull anyway. The sound vibrated through his teeth. His feet tried to follow. Silas stumbled backward, heart hammering, fighting his own body, like it had betrayed him. He turned hard, nearly tripping over the guitar case, and forced himself in the opposite direction. He did not walk. He ran. Behind him, the procession continued, calm and silent, as if the city itself had decided to take a midnight stroll and had chosen its companions. When he finally looked back, the street was empty. Only the bells remained, fading into the distance like a name whispered into a closed door. The next morning, the woman's bicycle was still there. It stood exactly where she had left it, front wheel angled toward the curb. On a nearby ledge, a paper coffee cup set, untouched, the lid still on, the contents cold. The homeless man's sleeping bag was laid out in its usual place, his few belongings stacked carefully beside it, but the man himself was gone. So was the one in the suit. No commotion or sirens. There was no explanation. Just absence, clean and complete, the way New Orleans sometimes deletes things when it decides they were never meant to stay. Silas told himself to let it go. He went to another gig. He played louder. He drank less. He watched the streets on his way home. He stopped walking alone after midnight, which felt ridiculous until he remembered how his own feet had tried to answer a sound they had no business knowing. 2 nights later, the air was heavier than before, weighted with expectation. Silas sat on his balcony with his guitar across his knees, plucking absently at a progression he did not intend to finish. Then the bells rolled in again. This time, the sound rattled the window glass. It set the strings beneath his fingers humming in sympathy. And inside the tolling, unmistakable now, was his name. Silas froze, pick slipping from his fingers. He listened, hoping fear was inventing patterns for him again. It was not. His name was wrapped in the ringing, stretched between echoes like a ribbon pulled taut. He barely slept, and in the morning, with the grim certainty of a man who realized the world had chosen him for a story he did not audition for, Silas did what every desperate soul in New Orleans eventually does. He went to the crew of the Morningstar. The door opened like it had been expecting him. Inside, the air changed. The shop smelled of old paper, candle wax, sage, and metallic rust, as if someone had tried to cleanse the place and only succeeded in making it smell more like consequence. The lantern light was warm, but borrowed. Shelves crowded the walls with objects that did not behave like objects. A mirror near the back seemed to disapprove of him on sight. Books whispered faintly among themselves. A locket on a velvet stand looked warm even from across the room. Everything in the crew felt awake, and behind the counter stood Lucien Devereaux, composed as ever, dressed with the exactness of a man who had stopped being surprised by the world long ago. He rolled an unlit cigarette between two fingers and regarded Silas with sharp, patient eyes. "You heard the bells," he said. Silas nodded once. "People are disappearing," he said. "I saw them. They just walked, and I almost—" The memory snagged in his throat. Lucien's expression barely shifted. "Unfortunate," he murmured. That was when Silas knew Lucien had been expecting him. Lucien turned to a glass case behind the counter and unlocked it with a key that seemed to appear from nowhere. When he opened his hand again, there was a small, rusted bell lying in his palm. It looked unimpressive. Tarnished metal, warm handle, the sort of thing you might ignore at the bottom of a junk drawer. Yet the moment Lucien set it on the counter, Silas felt his body answer before his mind did. The bell did not move. It did not ring. Still, something inside him recoiled from recognition. In that silent vibration, he could feel his own name pressed against the inside of his ribs. Lucien watched his face. "This one," he said, "or one just like it." Silas stared at the bell. "I don't know." Lucien exhaled slowly. "The hungry bells are older than the city," he said, "older than the river. They ring for those they want." He tapped the counter once beside the bell. "And when they call a name," he added, "that person doesn't tend to last long." Silas swallowed. "So how do I make them stop?" Lucien's mouth curved into something that would have been a smile in a kinder man. "You don't," he said. "There has to be something." Silas heard the edge in his own voice and did not care. "A ritual, a ward, a prayer. I need a way out." Lucien lifted a hand, calm as a judge. "I said you don't. But," he nodded, "I might." Hope flared in Silas's chest before he could stop it. "Fine. What do you want?" "Something of equal weight." Silas stared at him. "What does that mean?" "A trade," Lucien said. "You give something up. In return, I might convince the bells to lose interest in you." Silas's thoughts ran through the inventory of his life with brutal speed. He had very little worth stealing. Then the answer rose, cold and obvious. His music, his voice, the thing that kept him fed, kept him sane, kept him himself. Lucien's eyebrow lifted a fraction. "Ah," he said softly, "that might do." "No." The word came out immediate and flat. Lucien's expression sharpened only slightly. "No." "No," Silas repeated, louder now. "That's not an option." A soft hum drifted from the shadows. Silas turned. A woman sat in the corner, half swallowed by dim light, honey blonde hair pinned up neatly, postural, velvet calm. She had been there the whole time, and somehow the room had made it seem normal. She hummed again, and the melody went through him like smoke, curling into the spaces between heartbeats. Silas looked at her. "You know the song." Her gaze filled with amusement. "I haven't heard that song in ages." "The people who answer the bells," Silas said. Where do they go? Her eyes were sharp and cold. Somewhere hungry. A chill moved down his spine. The bells tolled again, nearer this time, as if they had been listening to the conversation and were bored of waiting. The sound hit Silas in the ribs like a shove. His name was in it again. He staggered back, gripping the counter. Lucien drummed his fingers once. Well, there has to be another way, Silas said, voice raw. The woman rose then and moved out of the shadows with the unhurried certainty of someone stepping into an argument she intends to finish. There is, she said. Silas latched onto the words. Yes? You won't like it. Lucien leaned back. This should be good. The woman, Evelyn, looked at Silas as if weighing his worth. You could answer them, she said. Silas blinked. What? The bells. You could follow where they lead. The words landed hard. Follow them. She nodded once. Find who is ringing them, or what? Silas made himself ask the next question. And the people who went before me? Evelyn held his gaze. You'd find out. The shop leaned in around them. The bells went on tolling, patient and hungry. The choice in front of him was terrible in two different directions. Surrender his music, the only thing that made the world bearable, or walk willingly toward whatever had learned his name. Only one choice let him keep his voice. Silas took a breath and let it out. Slowly. Fine, he said. I'll go. A shadow passed through Lucien's expression before it smoothed away. Brave, he murmured. Stupid, but brave. Story of my life. Evelyn's voice gentled by a fraction. Good luck. Lucien leaned forward and tapped one finger lightly beside the rusted bell. One practical note, he said. Don't cover your ears. Silas stared at him. Why? Because it won't help. And because panic makes people do embarrassing things. Silas let out a thin breath. Anything else? Lucien's eyes met his. Don't answer with your voice, he said. Answer with your feet, and keep your name to yourself. By then the advice felt less like explanation and more like ritual. The bell trembled once, hungry or pleased. Then, between a curtained recess and a leaning shelf of cracked frames, a narrow, teal-painted door swung inward on its own. Silas's gaze had passed over it earlier without interest. Now it opened with the calm certainty of something that had been waiting for him to properly notice it. The bells rang one last time, so close they seemed to reach for him. Now the sound came from inside his ribs, from the hollow spaces behind his eyes, from the seam where fear and instinct are stitched together. His name was in the tolling again, a demand made of sound. The walls of the shop blurred, shelves elongated, lamplight smeared. The mirror near the door flashed a reflection that was not there, then wisely chose not to show anything else. Silas took one step toward the opening and felt the pull shift from hook to path. Beyond the threshold, there was no ordinary world, only fog, dense and dark, and a road that was not a road so much as a direction carved into nothingness. Somewhere ahead, The bells continued to ring. Silas took one last breath. Then he stepped through. The fog swallowed him to his knees, then the waist, then the chest. Damp clung to his skin like a question. Behind him, the crew's doorway stayed open for the length of a single heartbeat, then shut with the finality of a sentence, ending. Silas stood in the dark with his own breath loud in his ears and looked ahead. Shapes moved in the distance, figures faint as pencil sketches, walking or waiting, or hanging there like memories that had not yet decided whether they were still people. The bells rang again. Silas Piper let the pull take him. He followed his name into the dark, and the dark answered back. You've been listening to Tongue of the Serpent. That was The Hungry Bells, a story about what happens when the city chooses a listener and the music begins to choose back. In New Orleans, not every haunting looks like a ghost. Sometimes it sounds like a call you were never meant to answer, and sometimes survival means walking toward the thing that wants you before it learns how to take you another way. Until next time, keep your name close, keep your ears open, and be careful what you follow through the fog.